Welcome to Profiles, where you'll see NFL personalities like you've never seen them before. You already know what they do, but for the next 30 minutes, you'll find out who they are. Away from the field, away from the spotlight. This is Profiles. And this is Arthur Blank. For 9 seasons, we've watched him root on his Atlanta Falcons, celebrating the team's biggest triumphs and lamenting its biggest tragedies. But on this episode of Profiles, the creator of Home Depot and one of the world's richest men gives us much more than a sideline view, inviting us into a world that very few get to see. His world. Arthur Blank, the owner.
The way you run your businesses, those same values you apply, in this business of the NFL, and you're going to be successful.
The father.
Joshua was upset. You have to talk about it. Why did Michael do these things, and what actually did he do?
The man. This is Profiles. Arthur Blank. We begin in Emigrant, Montana, nearly 2,000 miles from Atlanta, Georgia. But it may as well be a world away from the pressure of football and business. It is where the Blank family has spent every summer since they bought the Mountain Sky Guest Ranch 9 years ago.
When we talk to you in Atlanta, that's about what you do. And this is the place that we wanted to find out who you are. So where do I start with that?
It's interesting. The circumstances may be different, and the emphasis may be different, and the clothes are different, obviously, and what you may do during the day may be different, but basically who you are is who you are. And I think if you're true to yourself, you're true to yourself consistently.
Have you ever lost that, Arthur? You're talking about the challenge of all of a sudden having
Right.
all of this material and all of this
Right.
wealth. Did you find that you had to almost remind yourself at any point of who you are and not get caught up in
Well,
that?
I think you do have to remind yourself. It's pretty easy, to fall into a pattern of just acquiring things. I mean, it's well, you can do this, but I've stayed true to my values over the years. Probably one of the reasons my mother, who's 95, is still alive, and she reminds me of that periodically. But I've always kind of remembered where I came from, never really forgotten that.
Where it came from was a 1-bedroom apartment in Queens. What the Blank family didn't have in money, they made up for in principles. A lesson first taught to an 8-year-old Arthur in the most extraordinary of ways.
These guys came to the door, they knocked on the door. My father didn't look through the peephole to see who it was, and they pushed the door open, and so I came running out. And I still remember this picture. My father was on his knees, and this man had a gun to his head, telling him that, if he doesn't give him the money, he's going to kill him. So, they took my mother and my brother and I and tied us up, and we were like really scared. I mean, this guy had a real gun, and these guys were really going to, hurt us. And my mother saying, what you're doing here really isn't right. She said, you really have to find another way to lead a productive life. So this is not a good thing, holding up people. And she gave him this whole lecture and everything. To her, it was the principal thing. It wasn't right. She was going to express herself. She was going to tell this guy that it was the wrong thing that he was doing, and he had to think about something else to do for the rest of his life. This was not a good vocation he had picked out, and his mother would not be proud of him. So that's a great story.
The lessons would keep coming. When Arthur was just 15, his father passed away from a heart attack. With no business experience, Arthur's mother, Molly, was urged to sell her husband's pharmaceutical company. She refused, building it from a small startup company into a multi-million-dollar business. A drive and entrepreneurial spirit she passed on to her son, who was attending Babson College in Massachusetts.
My mother didn't have a lot of money to send me off to college with, so I was able to get there. And then to make some more spending money, I started my own landscaping business. And I did babysitting and picked up laundry around campus,
Were you ever a slacker?
No.
Never.
I've never been, in fact, when I go back earlier than that, when I played baseball, my position was a catcher. People say, well, what do you want to catch for? I mean, balls get thrown at you, and you get whacked on the knees and the head, and bats hit you and everything. Why would you want to do that? So as a catcher, you're involved in every play, like the pitcher is. That probably was indicative of what my business style was going to be later in my life.
That little thing he did later would revolutionize the retail industry. In 1978, Arthur and his partner Bernie Marcus created Home Depot. By the time Arthur stepped down in 2001, HD was the second largest retailer in the United States and the third largest in the world, worth an estimated $100 billion.
So with Home Depot, we wanted to be successful. We, quote, knew we were going to be successful, but we kept focusing on our business and just doing the right things, you know, in our business. And we knew if we kept doing the right things in our business, it would eventually lead us to success, whatever definition that would be.
Would you ever have thought to this extreme?
Oh, no, never. I remember one conversation I had with my partner, Bernie Marcus. You know, for years we had lunch together every day, and we used to travel together and work together. Then when the company got so big, we divided up so we could cover more territory. And I remember one time we were in Florida looking at some stores, and I remember sitting in the car and I'm going like this, give me it. Sean, like, this is, he said, would you believe this? He said, would you ever in your wildest dreams, you know, he said, would you believe this shit that we became as successful as we are?
How did Home Depot help you become an owner?
Well, I think it's interesting. I was in New York meeting with the commissioner. We had announced our deal in December of 2001. We were going to close in February of 2002. So we want you to have breakfast with Robert Kraft, who owns the New England Patriots. And because he's got a rich business background and he's applied it to the Patriots and had some real success. And I remember one of the things that Robert said to me at breakfast, he said, you're going to hear from a lot of people that the NFL is very different than your experience at Home Depot. Very different. He said, my experience is that has not been the case. He said that the values, the way you run your businesses, the way we've run our businesses in the Kraft Group, as compared to, let's say, you doing at Home Depot, he said, those same values you apply, you know, in this business of the NFL, and you're going to be successful. And I have found that to be true.
But there are some experiences that even a billion-dollar empire can't prepare you for. Still ahead, the lessons learned from Michael Vick for Arthur and family.
I probably didn't know Michael as well as I needed to know him.
Plus, a visit to one of the most exclusive dude ranches in the country. In 2002, Arthur Blank went from Atlanta Falcons season ticket holder to Atlanta Falcons owner. For $545 million, he acquired a longtime underachieving franchise that played in front of nearly 30,000 empty seats. He slashed ticket prices. He created more parking. He listened.
Went to play St. Louis and was coming back on the plane, and so I walked around the back of the plane, and just small groups of players. I introduced myself, and I said, look, I'm going to be your new owner. I can't draw plays. I don't know how to pick players. I'm not going to, design any schemes for you. But tell me how I can help you. Tell me what I can do to be productive as an owner. So they said, well, the dome we play in is empty a lot. 30–40% of the building's empty, and frankly, half the people that were there were rooting for the other team. So, fill up the building. So that was clearly something I had some experience at. And we followed pretty much the same pattern of success we had at Home Depot, and that was we listened.
The NFL had never seen anything like it, from 30,000 empty seats to a waiting list to get in. During his first season, Arthur Blank's Falcons generated a 100% increase in single-season ticket sales, the highest single-year increase in NFL history. But it wasn't just the presence of excitement being noticed, it was the presence of the owner as well.
Given the success we had at Home Depot, we had an awful lot of press coverage, but there's nothing like the National Football League. You have to think twice about things you do, and I went through some learning experiences, I think, in that regard, and how you position yourself, and sometimes things can be taken out of context.
What was one of the biggest learning experiences?
I think the time that I pushed Michael Vick on the field. So I did it and pushed him out to the corner of the end zone and walked away. But I didn't realize how that was going to look, on TV. And you become more aware of things of that nature. I mean, obviously what I was doing was a good thing for another person. But in that context, you have to realize how it's going to look and, how people are going to feel about it.
how people felt about blank star quarterback was about to drastically change. In 2007, Michael Vick was implicated in a dogfighting ring. Blank stood by him for months before Vick pleaded guilty to federal felony charges, serving 21 months in prison.
Hardest thing you've gone through as an owner?
Well, the hardest thing, obviously, was dealing with Michael Vick. Because, you know, he was the face of the franchise from a player perspective. I mean, he was our starting quarterback, and he had tremendous potential and promise, so that was a very difficult situation. And then the way it unraveled over time, and the not truth telling and what have you, all that was difficult for me.
But he wasn't the only one trying to make sense of it all. Along with affecting a team and a city, it was also touching very close to home.
How hard was that on you?
It was very hard. All my friends just bothering me about it and asking me questions. Got to a point where I got so upset I was crying at night, and I even had to talk in front of my class about it because I was getting so upset. Joshua
was upset, and he'd come home periodically, and we have to talk about it. You know, why did Michael do these things, and what actually did he do, and was he really involved, and explain to them that sometimes people make decisions in life and they're sorry about them and they're disappointed, and they learn from them and they pay a price. They go through a change and they transition. We were hoping that would happen with Michael as well. But it was a very difficult time. That was the difficult situation, the most disappointing.
I would think so, because it seems like with you, Arthur, that between your team, between your foundation, between your businesses, it's about the relationships and the trust you have.
It is about the relationships. I mean, I've told, I remember one of the reporters said, well, maybe you were too close to Michael. My answer to him was that I probably didn't know Michael as well as I needed to know him. I said, so you want to be engaged, I think, in the appropriate areas of somebody's life. You don't want to overreach and overextend yourself, etc. I've never had players come to me ever for guidance on the football side of it. But, you want players to feel comfortable. They can come to you and talk about, should I go into this business or this business, or what do you think about this opportunity, or do you have any idea in terms of estate planners or tax planners? That's the kind of relationships we try to have with our players.
Hey, Tony, let me give you a short but serious answer to your question. The most important thing with your partner is not a matter of style. Style difference is a good thing, because what happens is that you attract different people to the organization, and everybody gets the message it's okay to be different. Bernie and I were very, very different, personality-wise. What's not okay is that if you don't have shared values, it's like with your wife. You can each have your own likes and dislikes in terms of what you like to do, but your values need to be the same. Same thing in a business situation.
People, human beings, are the same. They all want to know that you care about them, on a personal level. If you're the employer, they all want to know that it's not just about production. It's also about, do you know who I am? Do you know my name? Do you know my wife's name? Do you have any idea what I like to do, what I don't like to do? I mean, those things are important to people. So, my attitude has always been with the Falcons is that even though I know we have players on the contract, I try to instill an environment in our organization where I act as though we don't have anybody under contract. And we have to earn their desire to want to play for the Falcons every day. So they feel like, this is a special place to be.
Kick is away, on the way, and it is good! Atlanta clinches their third consecutive winning season.
Ahead on Profiles, an invitation to one of the most exclusive working dude ranches in the country, a place where even the owner gets to enjoy some quality family time.
So Josh, if you had to have a job out here in the future, what would you like your job to be out here?
For 9 seasons, he has been a fixture on the Atlanta Falcons sidelines, a picture of elegance and poise. But put him in a cowboy hat and boots, and Arthur Blank looks just as comfortable.
The beauty of the area helps set the backdrop for thinking about things a little more broadly than you might ordinarily. There's no TV, there's no radio, there's no telephones. So people escape that world of technology and get into the world of humanity, get into the world of
touching each other.
Welcome to Mountain Sky Guest Ranch in Emigrant, Montana, a working guest ranch since 1929 and one of the most upscale ranch resorts in the country.
Pretty much as far out as you can see is all land that we own.
After coming to the ranch for several years as visitors, the Blanks bought the 9,000-acre retreat in 2001, a place where guests and owners come to recharge.
If you ask our children where their favorite place is, they'll all say Mountain Sky. We spend our days outdoors in this, magnificent setting, and we get to talk a lot as a family and with friends, and there's so many great people that come out here. So it's a chance to connect.
I spent a lot of time riding with the kids, so I've kind of, with Joshua, since he's 1.5 now, he's just 13 years old. We've been riding together all those years. So Josh, if you had to have a job out here in the future, what would you like your job to be out here?
I would love to be a wrangler because I love to lead rides and I love horses.
What do you think your dad would say, being able to see?
Well, I think he would say, I think he would be amazed at the level of successes that we've achieved. Hopefully be very proud of me in most areas of my life, hopefully every area of my life.
One of those areas would be the Arthur Blank Family Foundation, which has donated over $250 million to numerous charities. In addition to the foundation, every business Arthur owns, the ranch, the Falcons, PGA Tour Superstores, and Atlanta Falcons physical therapy centers all give back to their respective communities.
All of our associates, they get great pride in knowing that the result of their good work is going to really end up going back into our foundation and back into the community.
He's trying to make everybody a complete person. And how do you make people a complete person? In business, it doesn't normally happen. He cares about your families and he cares about you professionally. Some people would say if you have a soft heart, you can't be successful. I think Arthur has proven you can have an enormous soft heart and still be enormously successful.
You are a Falcon fan.
Oh, you know that, Mr. Bond.
Okay, good. Take care of yourself. Good
All
luck
right,
to you.
sir,
Okay,
thank
good.
you.
Thank you. You spend a lot of time talking to folks that are very successful, and the ones that you admire the most are ones that understand it is about family, community, it's about making a difference in people's lives. And I think people that I know that care about life, and ones that are, quote, retired, they never really retire, they just refocus their energies like I've done in a different area. And I think that you continue to try to make a difference, and along with a lot of other people, and inspire other people to work with you, whether it be giving back time, giving back money, giving back, resources, whatever they may have. All of those things I think are important to me in my life.
You will never meet a more ethical or noble-minded person. He's not so much driven by the bottom line all the time as he is by doing what's right. And I've seen that at Home Depot, I've seen that within the Falcons, and I think, that can be rare.
Coming up on Profiles, the road to the Super Bowl. In just 9 seasons, Arthur Blank has become one of the most innovative and respected owners in the NFL, known for caring as much about his players as he does the game. And they've rewarded him this season with the NFC's top seed.
I'm curious what it would mean to you bringing a world championship to Atlanta.
It'd be unbelievable. I mean, it would be a dream come true. This franchise has been here since 1966. It would honor, thousands of players that have played here, coaches that have coached here, fans that have, given us their financial resources, and probably as importantly, their heart and their passion, their emotion for all these years. It would be a thrilling thing to have happen. Obviously, I would enjoy it a great deal as well, but really, my enjoyment would really come more because of what it would mean to everybody living in this community. It would be an unbelievable experience.
Would you consider yourself a successful owner if you never won the Super Bowl?
Probably not. I mean, I think, I think that, I am a very competitive person. I think you want to win the ultimate game, the final game of the year. I would say I would still consider myself to be successful in terms of building a franchise and having a competitive team and getting us into an opportunity where we're competing in the playoffs and hopefully in the championship and the Super Bowl. But you sure would like to end up with with a W at the end of a Super Bowl someplace. Kind of like a golfing situation. You ask any of these great touring players, how do they feel about their career if they never win a major? Well, they feel great about it. If they win a major, though, it really, that's the icing on the cake. So I think winning a Super Bowl would be the icing on the cake, as well as the candles.
And he has had his fill of cake, creating an empire from scratch. But ask Arthur Blank about that empire, along with all of the wealth and fame that has come with it. And you'll find at his core, this 68-year-old billionaire is still just that 15-year-old boy.
So, since you are a big golfer, if I was going to give you a mulligan in life for anything you wanted to use it on, would you?
Well, I mean, I probably would have spent even more time with my father than I did. If I knew that I was going to lose him, if I could change anything in my life, I would have changed the fact my father, passed away when he was only 44 and I was 15. I mean, I spent time with him, but obviously if I knew our years were limited, I would have spent much more time with him than I did.
Do you have anything left to accomplish?
One of my favorite expressions in life is that there is no finish line. You have to enjoy the journey because the journey is going to continue. You try to set the best example you can for your family and for your friends and other people in the community. But there's work to be done, there's opportunities to be shared, there's joy to be had, there's laughter to be shared with people as we all go through this wonderful experience called life.
Make sure to watch Profiles all season long, where you'll see some of your favorite NFL personalities in ways you've never seen them before.